Hello, everyone, and welcome back in for another week of Palmetto Playbook. I'm Alan Marcus Hart of the 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. producer here at WMBF News.
And I'm TJ Turner. I'm a digital content producer here at WMBF in Myrtle Beach. And we have some good news. As you can see by Alan Marcus's jersey.
Had to break out the jersey.
Well,
and it's the Josh Norman. I don't know if I can turn around real quick. The Josh Norman Coastal.
Yeah, little shout out to Coastal. Well, I guess the weekend didn't start off great for the Panthers fans, but it ended great. And they weaseled their way into the playoffs after a rough and ugly game in Tampa Bay with all the gross weather there as they lost 16-14 to the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers just won this game on the ground. As you can see by the weather and the conditions there, it was definitely more of a ground and pound game than it was an air raid game as they outrushed the Panthers 140 rushing yards to 19, which caused a three-way tie in the division.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers had their chances in this game. It was a relatively close game throughout most of the game. As they started getting momentum, though, they had some issues I don't know if we have the replay of it, but they tried a flea flicker when they were in the red zone as they were driving down, and they ended up fumbling the football, which gave the Buccaneers possession back. It was a very sloppy game, which, I mean, probably you can attribute to the weather. But, I mean, it's crazy that you can be happy for the Panthers after they lost the last game of the season. But we kind of talked about it all season about how the NFC South is I can't think of a worse division in professional football right now. Someone had to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, all the teams at the top three teams, everybody other than the Saints in the division finished the season 8-9, and it is going to be the only division sending a team with a negative record into the playoffs.
Well, it was funny because I think the Falcons were mathematically eliminated from playoff contention, December, the first weekend of December, and they still somehow found a way to finish with the same record as the division champions.
Yeah, the Panthers fans after that game, it was definitely a stressful Saturday night into Sunday, and then watching those games on Sunday to see if they were going to get their spot in the playoffs. But luckily for the Carolina Panthers fans, they made it in.
Yeah, I got the old time saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend." I guess you can say Carolina and Atlanta have a friendly relationship right now. That will go away next season once the division's up for grabs again. But I'm sure Panthers fans can be a little happy with Atlanta right now.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have their week to be happy about it leading into the playoffs. And with these games this past weekend, we have the bracket now set for the NFL playoffs. As starting with that game, the Rams are going to be coming to Charlotte to play against the Panthers. And I think that game should be interesting. We saw this matchup earlier in the year.
Yeah, I believe that if I remember correctly, I think that was another rainy game for the Panthers. It was a very run-heavy game. It's going to be very tough to upset the Rams twice in the same season. It's going to be a very challenge. I think that in that NFC, is that the North, with the Seattle, the Rams, and the 49ers. All three of those teams are really good. I could see any of those three teams winning the NFC.
Yeah, and then the other matchups in the NFC, as you mentioned, the 49ers, who are going to be taking on the Eagles in Philly. And then we've got a rivalry Bears-Packers matchup for the third time this season, which should be interesting. And then the lowest seed who wins a first-round game will then face the Seahawks in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, so there should be some really good matchups. I know we have a coworker who's a Bears fan. We'll shout out Brian, even if he's not on the podcast. He's nervous for that game, just the whole dynamic with it, a rivalry game. But we'll see how that plays out. But it should be some good football.
Yeah, we'll see how my Packers play going against Brian's Bears this week in Soldier Field. It's Soldier Field in January, so
both of these teams should be up for winter weather. I don't see how you.
The best matchup for either of these teams would be to play each other because they are the most battle tested in those cold conditions. Because if you have a team like the Rams or like the Panthers who are going to be coming up to play at the Packers Stadium or at Soldier Field against the Bears, I think that gives the teams a distinct advantage because of the weather. But because you have two teams who are used to it and two teams who have been doing it all season in that cold weather, I think it'll definitely be probably getting the best product on the field from both of those teams rather than playing a team who's not up for the elements.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, and then moving over to the other side of the bracket, we have the Steelers and the Texans. After a very interesting game from the Steelers for them to sneak into the playoffs against the Ravens, which came down to the wire, came down to a missed field goal from the Ravens right on the last second of the game.
Yeah, that fourth quarter was insane, just back and forth, a battle between Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. The Steelers defense giving the Ravens plenty of chances to win that game. Just the having blown coverages in the secondary. Like you kind of mentioned right before that missed field goal, it seemed like Isaiah Likely, the coastal tight end, came up with a big fourth down. I believe it was a fourth down conversion for the Ravens to put them in what we thought was good field goal range. But they ultimately missed that. And it's kind of, I saw a meme last night after the John Harbaugh news. It was that field goal decided which coach got fired, either Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh.
Yeah, I think whoever lost that game, whether the Ravens or the Steelers, their coach was probably they were already on the hot seat, but I think that would have been the last straw for either front office.
Yeah.
And so that with that game, the Steelers will go on to play the Texans, and I believe the Steelers have gotten a home game in that one.
I feel like if you win, I think the way the playoffs are set up, if you win the division, you get to host the first, which is, that's why Carolina's hosting even with the losing record. So I think you're probably right on that.
Yeah. The Steelers will be hosting because they're the 4 seed, playing the 5 seed Texans, and then we've got an interesting matchup with the Bills and the Jaguars, which we played in Jacksonville, which Trevor Lawrence has been playing. He's up there in the MVP talks. I don't think he's really ready to win that award yet, but he's definitely had a great season, as well as Josh Allen and that Bills team.
Yeah, that should be a fun game. Like kind of you mentioned, the Trevor Lawrence just leading the Jacksonville to a lot of success this season. And I feel like this has to be a postseason where Josh Allen shows out. There's no Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. There's no Lamar Jackson in the AFC playoffs. I think if there's any season for the Bills to make a run, it should be this year, even though they are a 6th seed and there's other teams in that conference that look really good. The Broncos, they look really good. I know the Texans, their defense looks really good. And it's going to be a challenge, but I feel like if you're going to be in that high level of like quarterback conversation, you got to show out in the playoffs, and we haven't seen it just yet in his career. And I feel like this is the perfect year for him to do that.
Yeah, I think having Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson out of the playoffs, which have seemed like kind of his kryptonite so far in the playoffs with those two guys. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is everybody's kryptonite in the playoffs in his career so far. We've got that game, and then we've got a couple of young quarterbacks matching up as the Patriots will host the Chargers. Drake May, who's probably one of 2 guys who are in the running to win the MVP award, him and Matt Stafford have been playing amazing the entire season. Drake May's got that Patriots team. Granted, they have had an easier record than most teams in the NFL. I believe they had the statistically easiest strength of schedule in the NFL this season, which got them to that 2 seed where they'll take on the Chargers in the first round. And then we talked earlier on in the season about how the Indianapolis Colts were kind of the surprise of the year. But how about the Broncos? Going from being pretty terrible a couple of years ago, last year they had a pretty good year. Bo Nix is really coming into his own, and that team's sitting at a 1 seed right now.
Yeah, they've looked impressive all season, and they've set themselves up for the best position in the playoffs with that 1 seed. We'll just it can be a different game once you get into the playoff when a lot more's on the line, but they've definitely looked the part throughout the regular season so far.
Yeah, I feel like they've kind of flown under the radar too, because you watch the entire season, you wouldn't be like, oh, this Broncos team has one of the best records in the NFL and are sitting at a 1 seed right now, but that's exactly where they are leading into the first round of the playoffs.
That's kind of a good position, at least in my opinion, a kind of a good position to be in when no one's really talking about you, even though you are the 1 seed. Let people underestimate you, and we'll see how that plays out. It hasn't worked well for other teams in the past, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how it works with the bye there. And then moving on from the start of the NFL playoffs, we have just wrapped up the quarterfinals of the college football playoffs, as the first game on New Year's Eve was Miami defeating Ohio State 24-14 in the Cotton Bowl. This game, I will say this wasn't a very explosive offensive game from either team. which was kind of surprising to me as we've come to know these two teams as teams that are going to put up points. But regardless, it was a good game. It just wasn't the explosive, high-scoring, high-octane offense that we were expecting.
Yeah, if you remember a few weeks back when we did our playoff predictions, my playoff predictions definitely took a hit this week, and I had let's put it this way: I had Ohio State beating Texas Tech in the national championship game, so that will not be happening. But yeah, all credit to Miami. I was not expecting them to come in here. I know they upset Texas A&M, which I was kind of thinking Texas A&M had an easier schedule than most SEC teams coming into the playoffs. Heck, South Carolina should have beat them, but Miami has definitely proven that they're playing their best football right now in the playoffs. Now I'm just kind of questioning how they lose the games in the regular season because they're playing really well. Their offense and defense is clicking, which, I mean, you kind of mentioned the lackluster offense in this game, which I mentioned, like I told you right before we started recording. Obviously, I think that favored Miami. There's some high-powered offenses, the high-powered players on that Ohio State offense, and they definitely did the part of neutralizing the threat there. And Miami did exactly what they needed to do to win the game.
One thing that's been impressive to me so far in this, giving credit to this Miami offense, is Carson Beck has not played great in either of the games that they've played so far. He hasn't had great games. In this game, another lackluster game, 138 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, he's not making the mistakes that he made in those games that they lost in the regular season. And it's seeming like that might be the difference in this Miami team. As long as Carson Beck isn't turning the ball over 2, 3, 4 times as he did in the Louisville game, I think if they can just keep the ball and prevent turnovers, they're probably going to look at like they have a good chance in this semifinal game coming up, as well as the national championship if they can make it. I think if they can just try and prevent those mistakes and those turnovers, they should be pretty good.
Yeah, well, what's helping, at least I think in my opinion, what's helping them is their run game is really, they're showing out right now. I believe their running back, Mark Fletcher, is just having a heck of a season right now, or part of the season right now. Just putting that offense on his back, like you kind of mentioned, Carson Beck hasn't necessarily like exploded in this playoffs, but he hasn't really had to. The defense is doing their part to keep the games low scoring, and that running back group, Mark Fletcher, running that offense down the field.
Yeah, in this game you talked about the run game. Miami won the game on the ground by quite a large margin as they had 153 rushing yards to Ohio State's 45, which is the biggest difference in this game. I think that 10-point difference on the scoreboard can be attributed to that run game difference. And I think this was definitely the upset of the second round because I don't think I didn't expect this game to end this way.
Yeah, I'd say you're correct on that point because I figured Ohio State was going. I thought Ohio State would have had a relatively easy matchup, which all credit again to Miami. They're proving me wrong, so I'll definitely say that again. Miami is playing really well right now, and they're probably a team you kind of don't want to face right now.
Yeah, they've definitely been getting hot at the right times. And another team that surprised us this past week, Oregon, as they dominated Texas Tech 23-0 in the Orange Bowl. We talked all season about that Texas Tech defense and how we thought that was going to be their namesake and that was who was going to carry them into the semifinals and potentially the national championship, as you had predicted. But that defense, I feel like the defense showed up as good as it possibly could have against that Oregon offense. But this Texas Tech offense they never got off the bus.
Yeah, I was about to say, you kind of mentioned Oregon being the surprise team. I could say the same for Texas Tech. I expected a lot more from them in this playoff. I mean, granted, they were coming off of a few weeks away from playing football. Maybe they were a little rusty. I expected Oregon to be a really good team. They've played really well, and they showed out against that James Madison in the first round. Their offense has been electric all season. Their defense, they got a really good defensive coach with Dan Lanning. They're going to be a team to watch, but even before the playoffs started. But I expected this game to be much closer. I thought Texas Tech would put up a better challenge, but like you said, that Texas Tech offense they were doing everything wrong. They could not find any rhythm whatsoever, and it's hard for their defense to go out there and continue to try to stop that Oregon offense when Texas Tech's offense isn't doing anything to keep them off the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and when you lose when you go -4 in the turnover battle, or -3, excuse me, because Oregon did have one interception in that game. If you go -3 in the turnover battle in a playoff game against a playoff caliber team, to the caliber that Oregon is, I don't think you can expect to win that game.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, this game the scoreline was only 23-0, but I feel it could have been a whole lot worse. Oregon had at least in my opinion, a bunch of fourth down failed conversions in the red zone. They kept going for it instead of kicking the field goals. I think this, if I remember correct, I could be wrong, but I feel like the scoreline was only like 6-0 or something at halftime because they kept going for it and failing, and when they had opportunities to kick field goals to get more points on the board. But I mean, when they were dominant the entire game, I can't. It's hard to fault them for, keep the foot on the gas. We'll try to put as many points on. It didn't work then, but I mean, ultimately it did work because they got the shutout and they put up 23 points.
Yeah, and you talked about them passing up on field goals, and I'd like to give a shout out to their field goal kicker, Atticus Sappington. He had a great game. I think he made 4 field goals in this game. He's had a great season all year. I thought he was going to end up winning the award for the best kicker in college football this season, and he's shown that he is one of the best kickers in college football, if not the best, with that game. And we had an interesting storyline for the playoffs so far, as playoff teams that have gotten a bye in the first round have now lost every game except for one, which was this year.
You want to take this one away?
This past week, as Alabama was absolutely dismantled by Indiana. That game ended up 38-3, and this game. The beginning of the game, I will say, and that play right there is when the game completely and totally turned. I guess the tide turned in this game at that exact moment, as that fourth down conversion did not go on the opposite about 30-yard line, which definitely turned everything around in this game, because it was looking like it was going to be a tight game between Indiana and Alabama, as both teams came out and threw some punches early, and then Alabama decided to go for it on that fourth down after a couple of weird antics. They brought the offense, they brought the punt team out with Ty Simpson taking the snap, and then he went up like he was going to take the snap as an under center quarterback on the punt team, and then they called a timeout, and then they sent the offense back out, and then they went wildcat, and I don't know what was going on, and I think our offensive coordinator needs to be fired. I'll let Alan Marcus talk about it, and then I'll explain why he needs to be fired.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Indiana was the better team coming into this matchup. I certainly did not expect a 38-3 game. I thought Alabama would keep this game close, but I mean, I think Indiana is doing what they've done all season and proving the doubters wrong. I know there's a lot of talk about, are they one of the best teams in college football? They're definitely they're showing that they were deserving of the number one team in the country right now, and we'll keep it PG. They put belt to butt against that Alabama Crimson Tide team.
Yeah, and so now we've heard Alan Marcus all season early on complaining about Mike Shula and how South Carolina needed to go in a different direction. And now here's my plea to the Alabama coaching staff and the higher-ups in Alabama football. I know Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer are good friends. They're good friends, but sometimes you need to put work over friendships, and you need to just cut the cord when something's not working. And Ryan Grubb, great guy. He did great things at Washington, but since he's come to Alabama, he started off his career with a loss to Florida State where they couldn't get anything going offensively. You're coaching one of the best offensive lines in the country, probably a top 2 to 3 offensive line in the country. You have one of the best offensive tackles in the country, one of the best centers in the country, and you can't run the ball. So at that point, you can't blame the athletes. You can't blame the product on the field. It has to come down to coaching, the play calling, everything going on. I think we need a new offensive coordinator because it's Alabama. They have one of the best recruiting classes year in and year out. So there's no way that we don't have the right athletes on the field to be able to make the plays. It comes down to our game plan, our scheming, and what we're doing. We had multiple times in that game, and it's happened over the last 3 to 4 weeks, dating back to the Oklahoma game the first time, the Auburn game, this previous Oklahoma game, and now this game against Indiana. We have first down plays where we throw a check down route or we run the ball for 1 to 2 yards, and then all of a sudden we're coming out here and running an inside zone on 2nd and 8. That doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. You got to pass the ball. You got to pass the ball on those second downs, get yourself into a 3rd and short, and at that point you need to assert your dominance as an offensive line and just win the trenches. Because I had talked about it last week coming into this game as Alabama was going to need to win the battle between the tackles. And when you're just calling straight up this outside zone plays, running wildcat when you don't need to, because that's one thing Alabama and the pedigree that they've built as a team and as a program is not built on any gimmick plays. Ever since I've been watching Alabama football, I've been a fan my entire life. Is we don't run gimmick plays. We're gonna just put the ball down your throat, run the ball down your throat, and then when you stop that, we'll pull it out and we'll pass the ball down the field. Granted, in the last few years, we've gotten into the air raid offense as we've just adapted with college football. But we need to get back to that identity of establishing the run before we're able to just start throwing the ball around all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, and all credit again to Indiana. They're proving that, and like we mentioned before coming in this game, there's kind of arguments is the better athletes per se on the Alabama team or the Indiana team, but Indiana is definitely showing like hard work beats talent. I feel like they've really established this team identity. They're a close-knit group, it seems like. I mean, granted, I'm on the outside looking in. I have no idea what's going on in a day-to-day operation for any of these programs. But it seems like Indiana has definitely established a closer connection between teammates and stuff like that. It seems like they're playing harder for one another, which, which is what you want, I guess, in the playoffs when everything is on the line. I feel like the chemistry – Indiana has the better chemistry, which I think played a factor in this game as well.
Yeah, I think this game really was a testament to the coaching staff for Indiana. I've said it all week since the game as we've been talking about it here at the studio, but I think that Alabama just got completely and totally outcoached in this game. I think if these two teams probably match up pretty well head-to-head, if they're going to be pretty even, whether Indiana wins most matchups or not, I'm not sure because obviously it's a hypothetical matchup. But I think this game, this 35-point deficit for this 35-point win for Indiana, I think is definitely, I would 100% a testament to that coaching staff.
Yeah, it was dominant performance all around for Indiana. You can't fault them for for anything. They played really well, and yeah. We'll see if they can continue that throughout the rest of the playoffs.
And then the last matchup of those quarterfinals would be Ole Miss beating Georgia 39-34. This game, I would say, was the game of the year.
It was definitely a really good game. Another game that I got wrong. Well, actually, no. I think I did in my bracket. I think I did pick Ole Miss to upset Georgia.
I think right now my bracket is – I don't think I have a single team in the semifinals that's actually in the semifinals.
I think Ole Miss might be my only team left. Actually, no, Ole Miss and Indiana. Those are my two teams. But, yeah. But it was a really – I love to see Ole Miss continuing their success. Honestly, I'm kind of being petty. I like seeing them put it to Lane Kiffin after he left to LSU. I can't remember the guy now that I'm blanking on his name, but they're the head coach, Pete Golding. Yeah. He has more playoff. I think third most playoff wins in SEC right now, behind. I can't remember the other, but behind Kirby Smart and Nick Saban.
Yeah, the other two coaches, all three of those coaches were on the same coaching staff at Alabama at one point. I don't know if Kirby's feeling too bad about it now because he is still getting his bonuses.
Yeah, true. Or, Lane. Yeah.
Or Lane, yeah, excuse me.
But it was a really great performance from Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss put on a great performance in this one. And they went up, I want to say, 15 points with not a whole lot of time left in the fourth quarter, and it was looking like the game might have been over. And then Georgia came storming back at the end of that game, and then everybody thought the game was over 3 separate times.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And they brought out the celebratory things, and then they put them back, and then they resumed play, and then they brought out everything to celebrate again, and then they resumed play again, and Ole Miss ended up taking it in the end.
It would have been very hilarious if they did granted that final play they were kind of doing more laterals. It would have been hilarious if they did like a Hail Mary attempt and the Gatorade shower with the ice on the field caused the defensive back to slip on the field or something like that. Just add more chaos into it. But yeah, the ending of that game was. I feel, but even before the ending, I think I think this is the game that impressed me with their field goal. The field goal kicker for Ole Miss. I think he was nailing like 50-something plus
Mm-hmm.
yard field goals, and it looked good from like 70 yards.
I want to say the longest one. I want to say it was 57.
Yeah,
I think was the deepest, and it would have been good from past
like
60.
I know like if the Ole Miss had the ball, like if they crossed the 50-yard line, they were in field goal range with the way that player was playing.
Yeah, and then this game was just an offensive masterclass from either team. I know we had some turnovers there where the defense scored a couple of points, but the Ole Miss offense put on an absolute show. Trinidad Chambliss, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been playing amazing all season. It's looking like he would be potentially a good draft pick in this upcoming draft class, but it looks like he's trying to get another year of eligibility.
He's
in college.
trying to, if he gets from what I understand, he plans to come back to Ole Miss if the NCAA allows that waiver. Which who knows what the NCAA does anymore?
I don't even know if the NCAA has rules at this point.
No, they just make stuff up as they choose.
It's like, oh, this guy wants another year. Well, no for him. Yes for this guy. It doesn't.
Or
really
we'll
make
give you 7 months until we make our decision,
Yeah. Well,
like right before the season starts.
Yeah, there was the South Carolina running back where they were like, no, he can't play, and then he appealed it, and then they were like, well, we'll let you know in
like 6 months. We'll wait till the week before the season starts.
And then they're getting ready for the first game, and they're like, yeah, sure, he can play. But yeah, great game from Trinidad Chambliss, who was a Division II transfer from Ferris State, which has been great. And I think his career is just a testament to where I know we complain about the landscape of college football right now, but I think Trinidad Chambliss is one of the stories of how the new wave of college football can really help an athlete.
Yeah.
Where Trinidad Chambliss, coming from a Division II school, obviously he deserves to play on the Division I level and potentially the NFL level, which I think he will. But he's shown the ability where a college athlete can take those big performances in a smaller school and just work their way up and get onto this national stage where he's going to be competing for a national championship.
Yeah, he's definitely a success story of the transfer portal. And yeah, like 2 years ago, I would have had no idea who this guy was, but now he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and a testament to him. But going back to the game, I will shout out Gunnar Stockton. He put a heck of a performance as well, taking a lot of big hits as you saw in those the highlight package there. Ultimately, they didn't come up with the win, but he did a lot to put his team in a good winning position. He hit, like I said, he took a lot of hits in that game, and it was a testament. I like to see the toughness from him. He played really well too.
Yeah, I think that's something we've been coming to see from Gunnar Stockton. I know last year there was that play where his helmet went flying off, and he kept going. Credit to him. I think he's shown a lot of toughness over these past couple of years, and I think that's probably his greatest attribute. I mean, he's a great quarterback, obviously, bringing that Georgia team to a quarterfinal performance after last year, bringing them all the way. But it's definitely been an attribute to his toughness. And in this game, carrying on with that Ole Miss offense, Kawan Lacey, who's had an amazing year, who's probably been the second best running back in college football after Jeremiah Love, who had 98 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. I think he's probably going to be the second running back taken off draft boards in this upcoming draft. I believe he's coming out.
I can't remember exactly off the top. I feel like he is, but I don't know off the top of my head what.
I want to say he declared for the draft.
He might have, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not too certain. Maybe he
Keep
declared for the
talking
draft.
and I'll try to figure it
Maybe
out.
he declared for the draft and then he's going to go to LSU because in college football you just do whatever you want. You declare for the draft, come back to college. It just kind of seems to be whatever the players want to do. Carrying on with more stats from this game from that Ole Miss offense, as there was just so much going on in that firepower from this Ole Miss offense. As wide receiver Harrison Wallace, 9 catches, 156 yards, and a touchdown in this one. And obviously that is a testament to Trinidad Chambliss as well as Harrison Wallace in this game, as that offense was just putting up numbers. I want to say Harrison Wallace had a couple of long, deep catches in this one as well. Were you able to find whether or not he's coming out?
I think he's a sophomore. Yeah, according to Google,
he's coming back.
He's a sophomore, so he'll be coming back.
That'll be great for that Ole Miss offense. And I wonder, and maybe for that Ole Miss offense, maybe he was a Lane Kiffin guy. Maybe he'll go to LSU at the end of the season.
What I just saw, I think he's staying with Ole Miss. I don't think he entered into the portal.
Yeah. The portal's definitely interesting because you can agree to stay with the team and then still enter the portal. As we were talking about an interesting story out of Washington before the podcast, we could talk about that later when we do more of our transfer portal recap, as you will once we get further on into the portal.
Messy.
Yeah, I don't even know if we know what's going on in the portal, but we'll try and keep you guys updated with that. And then we had a national championship for the FCS level this past week or actually Monday, as Montana State and Illinois State played, and I think everybody's just kind of happy that one of the Dakotas wasn't in this
I'm
game.
happy because I remember I'm still salty with North Dakota State. This was, I guess, 10 years ago when Coastal would be playing them in the playoffs. There was one year where Coastal played them at the Fargo Dome. They had a really good shot at to win, but the referees made some costly decisions. I can't remember granted, I haven't watched the game in a long time. But, yeah, Coastal had when they had Alex Ross as their quarterback, had some heck of good teams back then. But like you mentioned, it's good to see some newcomers on the face of the landscape, which, I mean, even before this game, I guess Indiana or Illinois State is really, I guess, being one of the Cinderella teams.
They weren't even ranked.
They won the FCS playoffs. I mean, granted, I saw right there they didn't have a number beside their name, so they weren't one of the top seeds, and I played really well to get to this spot.
Yeah, going from being not a top seed to not beating, but playing against the number 2 team in the national championship game is just great, and I love to see it. Being from Illinois, I've played a football game on that Illinois State field. We used to have our state competitions there when we would have track, cross country, and things like that. In middle school and in high school, we would play there for football national state championships there or Northern Illinois University. So it was great to see them get some recognition. Got a couple of teammates who have played there and a couple of guys that I knew from back home. So it was definitely great to see them. And this game was crazy. It went into overtime, 1-point win. In overtime, there was a bunch of craziness as you had Illinois State who came out and scored a touchdown and then had the extra point blocked, and then Montana State came and answered.
Yeah, that was the game-winning touchdown right there, which was on a 4th and 10 conversion. The game on the line, Illinois State bringing all that pressure, and then the Montana State quarterback and the wide receiver doing his part to break away from the defender, and the quarterback making a very gutsy. I mean, you have to make that. It's a very tough throw to make in those circumstances with the game on the line like that. So all credit to him. It's definitely not easy to play with that kind of pressure.
Yeah, and then that wide receiver that caught that final touchdown pass. He had a great game, and he has a great name, Taco Dowler.
Taco Bell better be calling him up for an NIL sponsor.
NIL deal with Taco Bell. Have the Taco Dowler maybe be a new menu item on the menu, as me and meteorologist Andrew Dockery are massive Taco Bell fans. So if they choose to make that meal, we'll definitely have to try it out. But a great game from him as well, and a great game. Shout out to Illinois State quarterback Tommy Rittenhouse, 311 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, did everything he could to put his team in that winning position. Ultimately, they weren't able to come up with the win. I think the offense also did a good job for them coming back from a deficit. I don't remember how many points they were down, but a really good job from them to turn that game around, and at least I think in the second half to even get the game to overtime.
Yeah, I think games like this are they mean even more to the players right now with the landscape of college football, because a guy like Tommy Rittenhouse, who went to Illinois State, and he has a massive game like this, you could see players potentially be recruited by big name Division I FBS schools from this. So it's almost like they're getting put on a stage where they can show that they deserve to be brought up to that next level. Not to say that FCS is anything to look down upon, because obviously we've had players drafted from there. I mean, you guys had, like, Carson Wentz was a top draft pick.
Well, even we mentioned before, North Dakota State, they're better than some FBS program. There's been plenty of FCS upsets over the years. I mean, like, even go back to 2005, the App State upset over Michigan, who were a top 5 team in the country. I mean, FCS teams can play. We haven't seen as many upsets, I guess, since then, but every now and then there are upsets.
Yeah, and it's great to see players on that stage be able to perform and give themselves a chance to potentially move on to that upper level and try and get them a chance at getting potentially to the draft.
Yeah, but yeah, there's some good quality football still playing on the FCS level.
And then moving over to basketball, starting with women's hoops in South Carolina, as they are now 15-1, off to a 2-0 start in SEC play.
Yeah, the women's team are showing exactly how they've been under Dawn Staley for the past decade. A really dominant team offensively and defensively. They've got a few. They had some of their players that were injured come back, and they've definitely pieced right back in there. I think we also got the men's highlights there too. The men's team's sitting at 10-5 right now. Now, if we're recording this on Wednesday. If we been recording this on Tuesday, I would have been a lot more pessimistic on this South Carolina the men's team. The women's team are a force to be reckoned with, regardless. But the men's team have struggled throughout the season. But they actually kind of surprised me with the win over LSU on Tuesday night. They were up, I think, 50-25 at halftime. I walked in the house and I saw the score. Or my dad told me the score was 50-25. Well, my first thought was, who's the women's team playing? And then he said it was the men's team. I was like, well, so are we winning or are we losing? Because if you would have told me the score was 50-25 and the men's team's playing, I would have just assumed we were losing. But the men's team, I said throughout the season so far, they live or die by the three ball. They were shooting the three ball well last night. And they were led by Elijah Strong, who had 30 points, 4 for 4 from the three-point line. Michi Johnson, the second highest scorer, 19 points, and he shot 3 for 6 from the three-point line. So they were playing to their strong suit, and their strong suit actually worked out last night. I know there's been games throughout this entire season where we've said their identity is the three-point shot, but they can't get the shots to fall. Whatever they did last night worked whatever they did last night worked, and I don't know how much they'll be able to keep it up with. I know LSU was like 12-2 coming into that game, but they're now 0-2 in SEC play. The SEC is still a very loaded conference, and I don't know how much. Well, it's still going to take a lot from South Carolina to put some wins together, because this team still has some struggles. I still don't think they have that much of a post presence, but I mean, Elijah Strong did have a really good game. He was doing everything in that post. I just don't know how sustainable it is.
Yeah, and them splitting those first two conference games is definitely an interesting way to start out the season, especially as we expected them to struggle. Obviously, LSU not exactly a powerhouse in the SEC. And we have an unexpected powerhouse in the SEC in Vanderbilt, who they lost to the first game, as Vanderbilt's men's and women's teams have been amazing this year. And it's been interesting to see that Vanderbilt, just overall as a school and as an athletic program at Vanderbilt, just grow and thrive in the SEC. The football program's obviously taken massive leaps.
Well, their baseball program has always been one of the dominant teams, but now their athletic department is shock at least me. Like you mentioned, their football team doing really well. Like you mentioned, their men's and women's basketball teams are still undefeated. Now, Kyle, I will hop back in here because I was joking with you. I was going to say this. The South Carolina, another even surprising fact of the South Carolina win over LSU. They won a game with the referee that I don't like refereeing the game, Doug Shows. I'm still better. We'll go on a story time right here. We'll rewind to, I believe it was February of 2019, my senior year of college. I still have beef with this referee because he threw me out of a basketball game in Colonial Life Arena. Well, going into halftime, I guess because when I was a student there, I would sit courtside. I was the type of student that was sat outside the arena 3 hours before the doors opened to make sure I had one of the best seats in the arena, because it was first come first serve for us students. But I guess the students beside me were heckling the referee throughout the first half. As the first half was coming to a close, Doug Shows comes over, yells at the students and said, "If you keep doing this, I'll throw you out of the arena." So I had no fight in this, because he was arguing at them. But me being me, if you're gonna come at them, I'm gonna step up. I said, "It's not our fault. You suck at your job." That's literally all I said. No cussing, no nothing. No cussing, no nothing. This man didn't even look at me. Went straight across the court, got a security guard, and got me escorted out of the arena. And I'll still be petty about it, because I don't think I should have been thrown out the arena, but South Carolina ended up winning that game back in 2019 as well. So, and even to be more petty, that same season, South Carolina was hosting a round of 64 game in Colonial Life Arena. Somehow, I got one of the upper deck seats because it was a two game day in that arena. The first game was Duke versus Central Florida. And as the Duke fans were walking out of the arena, one of the fans who was sitting courtside gave me their ticket. It was like, you want to go sit down there for the second game? I was like, sure, why not? And it was I think Oklahoma was playing someone in that first game. But I was sitting courtside again with Doug Shows, right, who was refereeing. I didn't say anything to this time, but I definitely tried to make eye contact with him then as well, because I'll definitely, if you want to start a fight with me, I'll be more than happy to continue it. That's my story time for the day. We'll go back to our regularly scheduled program.
Moving over to the Clemson men's team, who is now 12-3, off to a 2-0 start in ACC play, and the Clemson women's team, who is 11-5 and off to a 2-2 start in ACC play. Both of these teams, I think, have been playing as well as expected. I don't think there's any major storylines with Clemson women's or men's basketball so far. They've been steady playing well, playing good in the conference, and doing what they set out to do and what they were expected to do before the season.
Yeah, I mean, other than the men's team, which we expected to be a really good team in this conference, in I guess college basketball as well. I think they started the season ranked in the top 25, and they're showing why they were getting these preseason accolades. They're playing really good ball, and the women's, like we mentioned throughout the season, their women's team's definitely putting together performances to show that they've been improving over the years, so you got to be happy seeing that as well.
Yeah, both teams definitely off to a great start to the season. It'll be interesting to see. I expect the men's team to push into that tournament, and I think, as we've said, a Sweet 16 berth is kind of expected there. And then that women's team, I think, is fighting to get into the tournament and then potentially win a game or two in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I feel more confident with the men's team and with postseason play, but the women's team has shown that they've at least started off on the right foot. I mean, with 2-2 in ACC play, there's still a long stretch to go, but they're like we've kind of said all season. There's some improvements there throughout the season, and
And then wrapping it up with Coastal Carolina on the basketball. When it comes to basketball, wrapping it up with Coastal Carolina as the men's team continues to impress at 8-8. I know 8-8 and 1-3 in the Sun Belt doesn't sound impressive, but coming off the year that they had last year, they're just continually improving, and I think it has been impressive to see them turn it around the way that they have.
Yeah, they were struggling several years ago under Cliff Ellis, and I like to see that they're back to at least playing some type of winning basketball. Obviously, they're still at like 500 right now. But, they only had 10 wins left, which we keep bringing that up as well. But definitely some signs of improvement for that men's team. Even one of those losses, I can't remember exactly which team they were playing, but it was a very close overtime loss. So they've been competitive, I feel like, for even some of the games that they've lost. They could have gone either way, which is like what you like to see, them being competitive. You don't like seeing these teams get blown out, which even for the women's side of things, I think we've mentioned it already, which is kind of surprising. I expected their women's team to be the much better side. They're 7-9 right now, 0-4 in Sun Belt play. One of those losses was also a close loss in overtime. But, it's kind of shocking to me, to see the women's team struggling right now.
Yeah, we definitely expected the women's team to be better than they have been so far this season. And they'll have an opportunity tonight on Wednesday as we're recording this. You guys will see it on Wednesday. And tonight they're going to have a good test to try and turn their season around and get their first win in the Sun Belt as they go up to Boone and play against App State. And I think right now that win would definitely propel them to turn things around. Obviously, we have so much time left in the basketball season, so it's not like it's not a must-win game at this point in the year.
It's getting close to that when you start 0-4, but especially with the hype the expectations around this team to be one of the better teams in the Sun Belt. When you start 0-4, these games have to start coming around. And like I feel like it is a good opportunity. The App State women's team, I feel like is an equally struggling team right now. I feel like it's a game that could bounce back for the women's side of things, and we'll hope for that to happen.
Yeah, we'll be keeping you guys updated with that, and hopefully they can get that win and turn things around in Sun Belt play and just overall for their season.
We'll wrap a quick mention for the Charlotte Hornets. I will give them a quick shout out after beating the defending NBA champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe they were up like 20. They won the game by 27 points, which is one of probably the upsets of the seasons with Oklahoma City. Brandon, for the Hornets, side of things. Brandon Miller putting
Alabama alum.
yeah. Make sure you say that again. Yeah, had 28 points in that game. Colin Knippel, we've been highlighting him as a really great rookie for the Hornets. Put up 23 points, and I will even say for the Hornets, they had PJ Hall has recently joined the team. He's a Dorman High School standout in the Upstate. He went to Clemson for I believe all 4 seasons. Had a really good career for Clemson, and then I don't think he started his professional career with Charlotte, but he's there now at least for the time being, and he had some good performances. He had 13 points in that game.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, especially, I mean, through the first 25, 26 games of the season, it was looking like that Oklahoma City Thunder team was gunning for that 73-win record for the Warriors, or at least going to eclipse that 70-win mark. And now all of a sudden they've gone on this slide with that win probably being the worst of them all, or that loss being the worst of them all for Oklahoma City. Probably the best win of the season for the Hornets. And if they're going to turn, I know they've had a rough year, a rough go of things, and they're looking at a top draft pick. But if they're going to turn things around and try and get closer to that 500 mark before the end of the season, now's definitely the time to turn things around if they're going to make that push.
Yeah, you got to continue that momentum. I believe the Hornets' next game is against the Raptors. So we'll have to, tonight on Wednesday, we'll have to see if they continue that. But it's definitely a bright spot after we've kind of been kind of saying that the season's pretty much a wash for the Hornets. We'll acknowledge the fact they beat the defending NBA champions.
Yeah, we got to give them their flowers when they earn them.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the playoff matchup for the Panthers next week, as they're going to be taking on the Rams at home, as we mentioned earlier. But just more so getting into this game, as earlier on in the season they had a matchup where the Panthers were able to squeak out a win. And I think this matchup, obviously the Panthers are not going to be favored in really any matchup coming into the playoffs, but getting a team that they're familiar with and they've already beat during the season, I think will definitely help the Panthers.
Yeah, I could also see it hurting them as well, because now the Rams know how the Panthers play, and they can adjust to that. And I feel like the Rams have the better team out of these two. It's going to be a very tough matchup. I struggle to see if the Panthers can get it done. But, I mean, like we've seen all season, when you count the Panthers out, somehow they'll pull out a win when no one expects it. Maybe this starts a run. Who knows? I don't know.
Maybe we have to do what we did early on in the season and give the Panthers no chance to win.
Yeah, the Rams all the way.
Yeah, Rams all the way. I think the first time we were like, the Panthers got no chance in this one. They're playing the Rams. Rams are the best team in the league so far, so they won't win.
We'll run this bit back. And
we'll run it back. So the Panthers have no chance of winning this game. They're going to lose by 21. The Rams are the best team in the NFL.
Yep, Rams all the way.
Rams by 50. And then moving on to our semifinal matchups for the college football playoff, as Ole Miss is going to be taking on Miami in the Fiesta Bowl. And I think if you would have told me Ole Miss versus Miami was going to be the semifinal matchup, I probably would have told you were insane. I didn't see this one coming. But I think this game should be awesome, to be honest. I expect a great game. Ole Miss has had some great games. Miami has had some great games. I expect this one to be nothing short of another one, as similar to what we saw last week against Georgia for Ole Miss. Obviously, that's a crazy game, and I don't know if we could see that same thing happen again. But I think you could see a game like that where it's just an absolute shootout where both teams are just firing on all cylinders. That's what I would love to see.
Yeah. I mean, it has the potential that the Miami defense is going to have another tough challenge. That Ole Miss offense is very explosive. I know there's some question marks surrounding the coaching staff for the Ole Miss team with the whole transition with Lane Kiffin and some of these assistants. I don't know when they were supposed to transition back over to LSU. But, it's good to see Ole Miss in this position. But it's another tough challenge for Miami. But like they've shown so far in this postseason, they're up for the challenge. So you better not be looking to try to look past them.
Should we even make predictions anymore?
No. I mean, when you look at my bracket, I might as well be picking who should you not pick to win this game?
I've got Alabama.
Maybe for 2027, I guess, when that. But yeah.
I think in this one, I don't even know if I have a pick in this one. I think I'm hoping for a great football game. I don't think I really even care who's going to win. Not that I don't care who's going to win, but I don't think I'm not partial to either team. I'd like to see Ole Miss win because they've just never been here before.
Yeah.
But I'm just hoping for a great football game. From a viewer standpoint, I would just love to watch some good football.
Yeah, I don't even want to I don't want to make a prediction and get these fan bases mad at me because when I say something, that team normally loses. I'm not going to do that. that.
Don't go and jinx them out, Marcus.
No, well, we've already jinxed the Rams. I'm happy to jinx the Rams, but
Yeah.
I won't do this for two teams that I have no affiliation with.
And then moving on to the other game, Indiana versus Oregon, which I think will be a good game. These two teams faced off earlier. And we talked about the storyline earlier about how teams that have had the bye have not had a very good record moving on. And in the playoff, teams that have played each other for the second time in the season in the playoffs. So like Alabama and Oklahoma played earlier in the season and then had a matchup in the playoffs, and now this one. The team that won the regular season matchup has only won one game so far and in the college football playoffs, and it was the Ole Miss versus Tulane game, which I don't think Tulane really had a chance in that one at all. Anyways, but when it comes to games where teams are playing for a second time, it's hard to beat a team twice. Everybody knows that. Everybody always says that every season when you play a team twice, but especially when it has the ramifications that this game does, which is why I think Indiana is playing the best football in the country right now out of anybody. But I think I'm going to give the edge to Oregon. I will make a prediction in this one. I'm going to give the edge to Oregon strictly because of the difficulty to beat a team twice. But I think if there's a head coach that's ready to beat a team twice in college football, it is Kursignetti.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these are the two best teams left in the playoffs right now. It should be a really great matchup. I know the first times they played it, I'm pretty sure it came down to the wire. It was it was a road game for Indiana at Autzen Stadium up there in Eugene, Oregon. But Indiana came out with the win there. It's like you said, it's going to be a very tough challenge. I don't feel confident making a prediction, even if I had affiliation, because I could see it going either way. Both of these teams are playing really good football, and I think they're the two best teams left in the bracket right now.
Yeah, I think this one's probably going to – I would expect whoever wins the Indiana versus Oregon team. That's my – I'll make this prediction.
I can live with that one.
I think whoever wins this Indiana-Oregon team will win the national title.
Yeah,
I
can live with now.
That's my final prediction. Which we will know we'll know the outcome of these games in our next episode. We're going to take a week off, and then we'll come back after the national championship game. So we will tell you guys what goes on in the national championship game, and hopefully we'll be back here to talk about the Panthers' first round win, first 2 round wins, and they're fighting for a championship spot for the NFC in that one. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back right here.
Yep, we'll see you until then.